And on PM Express tonight, the biggest conversation in Ghana as the country anticipates the arrival of some 350,000 emergency COVID-19 vaccines. So tonight, arrival of Ghana's vaccines, are we ready? That's the biggest question we're asking tonight. And just by way of some updates on the COVID-19 pandemic, the confirmed cases now stand at 80,759. Recoveries discharged 73,365, and new cases 506, active cases 6,812. Now, we're talking about the approved vaccines by the FDA. The Food and Drugs Authority has approved AstraZeneca vaccines from India and Sputnik V vaccines from Russia for mass immunization in Ghana, starting from March to October, as the President Akufo-Addo announced some weeks ago for selected segments of the population. So this is how the who gets the vaccine first, and the Ghana Health Service has explained to us that healthcare workers will be the first to get, frontline security personnel second, persons with known underlying medical conditions, and 60+ older persons. Then frontline members of the executive, legislature, and judiciary follows in that manner. Now, the Ghana Health Service says it has trained over 12,500 vaccinators, 2,000 supervisors, and 37,413 volunteers to administer the vaccines across the 260 metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. Vaccines will be administered in 3 phases, with each person taking 2 doses. I've heard so many people ask the question, how many doses are we supposed to be taking to stay safe? So each person is supposed to take 2 doses of the vaccines to be able to be immune. The Information Minister designate has noted that government officials will publicly take doses of the COVID-19 vaccines before the mass vaccination exercise. This is to help, according to him, demystify the public apprehension about the vaccines. Now, according to data collected by Bloomberg, more than 205 million doses have been administered across 92 countries globally. Now, the latest rate was roughly 6.44 million doses a day. Let's look at this chart. A global vaccination campaign. Israel leads all countries with 78.8 doses per 100 people. Now, you look at the countries here. US with 63,090,634 doses administered so far. And doses per 100 people, you have 19, and percentage of population given 5.7% so far. In China, you have 40,500,000 people who have received the doses. Doses per 100 people, 2.89, and you come to the EU, 26,528,586. And the percentage of 100 people who have taken doses is 5.97, and population percentage of population giving 2 doses, you have 2.1%. In the UK, you have 18,197,269, and doses per 100 people, you have 27.24. Population giving 2 doses, 0.9%. In India, you have 11,000, and this is a significant figure because I was shocked to see that India has been able to vaccinate 11,085,173 people. Now, doses per 100 people, you have 0.81, and people with 2 doses, you have 0.1% of the population. In Israel, 7,132,468, doses per 100 people, 78.8, and the percentage of population giving 2 doses, you have 31.8%. Brazil has 629,827, and doses per 100 people, you have 3.15, and 0.5% as of population given 2 doses. In Turkey, you have 6,590,415 and 7.93 representation doses per 100 people, and percentage of population giving 2 doses 1.3%. The UAE has 5,554,342, and that represents doses per 100 people 51.67. They've done quite well there, but with the population giving 2 doses, you have negative there because it means that they've not reached the 2 doses regime yet. And in Germany, you have 5,554,641, representing 5.86 doses per 100 people, and of percentage of population given 2 doses, 2.0%. Well, race to end the pandemic, AstraZeneca vaccine UK trial size is 65,000, and required doses is 2, storage temperature 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, efficacy 70%, approved for use by EU, India, and the UK. Sputnik V Russia trial size 31,000, required doses 2, storage temperature 2 to 8%, 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, efficacy 91.6%, approved for use by third phase UAE, India, Venezuela, Belarus. And the question tonight is, are we ready as we receive the vaccines? We're told tomorrow. Stay with me. I'll be introducing my guest to you shortly after this break. And we're live on PM Express. We're discussing the vaccines. 350,000 vaccines supposed to reach Ghana by tomorrow. And we're asking, what will this 350,000 mean to our fight against COVID-19? I mean, what will the vaccine do? There are a lot of questions I'm sure you need answers to, and I have all the guys, the gentlemen who would respond to all those answers. Dr. Bediako is immunologist and research fellow, West African Center for Cell Biology of Pathogens at the University of Ghana. Dr. John Amoesi is leader of Global Health and Infectious Disease Research Group at KCCR and lecturer at the Global Health Department at KNUST. Dr. Michael Owusu is clinical microbiologist and research fellow, KCCR, and lecturer at the Department of Medical Diagnostics at KNUST. And thankfully, Dr. Kwame Amponsah-Achiano joins us. He's senior public health physician specialist and program manager, expanded program on immunization at Ghana Health Service. I'm grateful that all of you joined the show. Let me begin with a release that was circulated a few minutes ago by the Ministry of Information, and it says government to receive first consignment of COVID-19 vaccines. The government of Ghana will on Wednesday, February 24, receive the first batch of the coronavirus vaccines at the Kotoka International Airport, Accra. The Minister for Health designate, Kwekwa Meno, will lead the government delegation to receive the vaccines at 7 a.m. The brief ceremony will be televised live on Ghana television and also on Ministry of Information's Facebook page. Media houses interested in the coverage are encouraged to pick the live feed, and it's signed by the Public Relations Officer, Munira Karim. I would quickly go into that by asking Dr. Achiano to run us through the process. But first, let me start with you, Dr. Bediako. How fast is the virus mutating, and how is this impacting on our fight against the virus?
Thank you, Aisha. Well, the virus is certainly appearing to mutate a little bit faster than it was last year. It's hard to get a clear bead on how fast it's mutating, but it's safe to say that it is mutating. Currently, at least from the sequencing we're doing in Ghana, it appears as though the dominant variant still is B117, which is the strain initially identified in the UK, for which the AstraZeneca vaccine is highly effective. So we are still okay in terms of the variant that is circulating. But work will need to continue to basically track these variants and see how the system evolves. Of course, there's evidence that once you begin to vaccinate and you put these viruses under pressure, they can then increase their rate of mutating. So that is all the more reason why we need to vaccinate quickly and broadly as much as we can.
So, Dr. Chiano, tomorrow at 7 a.m., we're expecting the 350,000 vaccines to arrive at the Kotoka International Airport. And we hear the minister designate will lead the delegation. What are the processes?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers and listeners. If you could clarify your question, processes of receiving the vaccine, if I understood you rightly. Exactly. Then it is, yes, it's going to be led by the Ministry of Information. They are the ones coordinating. But as the release suggests, the Minister of Health is the one who is going to lead in receiving the vaccines. I do know that the partners would join the minister. I mean, partners, the development partners will join the minister. The technical people will also be there. We have made vans available, 2 vans, one from the program. We have cold vans because vaccines have to be carted in strict temperature. So the vans will be available. We have made an arrangement for a spare van, a standby van in case the consignment is too much to carry by the 2 vans. So there will be a brief, I think it's a statement by the Minister of Health, who will then lead the process of carting the vaccines straight from the tarmac into the cold room at the National Cold Room, which is situated in Korle Bu Teaching Hospital.
Okay. Dr. John Amoesi, does 350,000 vaccines change the narrative?
So let me correct that before Dr. Amoesi comes in.
Okay.
Yes, it's actually the number of doses is actually 600,000. It's still low there, but it's definitely not 360.
Okay, so it's 600,000.
600,000, and it's arriving at 7:30 a.m.
Great. So now we're sure that we're even getting more than what we anticipated. That's great news. Dr. Amoesi, 600,000 vaccines arriving in Ghana. Will this change the narrative?
Well, thanks for that, Aisha, and greetings to everyone listening, especially my panelists, good friends, most of you. Dr. Chiano, I'm glad you pointed that out. Well, I was going to ask you right away, that is it 350 or 600? Because what I know is 600. So I'm glad you pointed that out very clearly. 600,000 definitely not enough by any measure, but it's a great first start. You need to juxtapose what is being brought in against the schedule for vaccination. Dr. Bediako made a really important point in his opening statement, and he said we need to do this quickly. And I want to point to the need for speed in here. This is not the movie, but this is real need for speed in vaccination as being the real game changer. I'll explain that in a bit, but I need to answer your question directly, which is if you look at the first batch of people, which is healthcare workers who are going to be vaccinated, then you can argue that in the government health sector, there's about 250,000 plus healthcare workers, if I'm right. Dr. Chiano can correct me. And if they are the first batch of people to go, then there's actually more than enough to go around for your first batch of people who you expect vaccinated. I understand that there's going to be some security services also involved in this first batch. And certainly, I'm sure some members of the executive, etc., will be part of this. But by and large, to address the first category, pair the plan, 600,000 is enough. What we need to be sure is, having the plan, and maybe Dr. Chiano can throw more light on this, of receiving the rest as quickly as possible. This 600,000 has to be delivered as quickly as possible. I know they're starting the training as early as, I think, started the training of how to deliver. The vaccines has already started. The reason why you need to do this quickly is, as Dr. Bediako pointed out, the virus is mutating faster and faster because it's under pressure. And as you put pressure on it, you need to put the pressure to the point where it breaks. You can only put pressure to the point where it breaks where you vaccinated a significant percentage of the population, such that the virus is no longer able to move as quickly as it would move because there's less susceptible people available to transmit it. And this is really where the catch is, especially in a situation where we do not know for how long immunity lasts. And since we do not know, we need to do as quickly as possible. So if, God forbid, it lasts shorter than we hope it does, maybe 4 months, 6 months, and that's really short, then it means that after 6 months, let's say 6 months post your second dose, it means you're no longer protected. And so if you're vaccinating slowly over a long period of time, then you'd only have a certain small percentage at any time who are protected. And that's not good enough. It's a drink deep or taste not situation. Otherwise, all you're doing is providing individual level protection. You're not arriving at that population level protection, which we really need. So yes, so far 600,000, good to start with, but the rest must flow really quickly. And I need to point out one more thing. The diversity in the choice of vaccine is really critical. I'm glad we're getting the COVAX, AstraZeneca. I know the Sputnik will come in soon. Arrangements are being made. We must also gun for the others, especially the Pfizer, Moderna. That's a little more difficult to manage with the cold chain stuff. I'm sure Dr. Chena will speak more about that. But definitely we shouldn't put our eggs in one basket. So far, so good. Let's not take our legs off the gas pedal. Let's press even harder. Okay, so Dr.
Achiano, clarify this for me. The ones we're getting tomorrow, the 600,000, is it the AstraZeneca or the Sputnik V or both?
Okay, so the ones we're getting is from within the COVAX facility, and it's AstraZeneca from India.
Okay, great. Now, Dr. Michael Owusu, we are not oblivious of the fact that for all vaccines being developed, the requirements for the developer is actually to ensure that the population it will use in trial represent the population that will end up using the vaccines. One of the issues that have come up with the COVID-19 vaccine is that compared to other pandemics, which took more than a year for vaccines to be prepared, the COVID-19 vaccine seemed to have come in quite early. And in some instances, it has been administered as a matter of emergency, like our situation right now. Now, the question remains, these vaccines, is there data to back the fact that it's been tested on Africans, and for that matter, making it efficacious for use in Ghana?
Yeah, thank you, Aisha, and then good evening to all my colleagues as well. You know, if you look at vaccines and how the world handled vaccines, I mean, compared, if you look at viruses, particularly, it looks like vaccines for me, because they are one of the few organisms that is difficult time past, from pastest time up to date. Most attention has focused on vaccine development. So the world is quite robust when they come to looking at this. I mean, there has been some data. If you know that when this was starting, South Africa is one of the countries that opted to join the phase 3 clinical trial for these vaccines. And they had some quite data to show that indeed is able to work. Unfortunately for them, because of their variant, which they have, the B1351 strain from their end, it didn't permit them to make any substantial gains when it comes to assessing the efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine. But I mean, if you look at the whole of Africa, even in the States, in the US and other places, even in those places, it was difficult to get data from Black people. We are learning that it's about 9.3% Black indigenes who really took part in this trial. So this is the more reason why I think that Black African countries should be able to participate in this the more, because you need data. I mean, when the trial was going on, I'm aware that even in Ghana, they extended hand for us to join the trial. But for some reasons, I don't know how and what happened. In many African countries opted out of it. So if you are not part of the trial, it's difficult for you to get substantial data to back what you are doing. But the good thing is that this has gone through WHO and has gone through many other bodies who have assessed this. And the data we have suggests that indeed this is able to work for us. But the other good thing is that even in Ghana, we know that the FDA and the Ghana Health Service have plans to collect data from the people that will be vaccinated. And for me, that is the good aspect of it. It's not just about mass vaccination, take it and go away and then just go your own way. But as you take the vaccine, safety data will be collected. As you take the vaccine, efficacy data will be collected. We can now come out and say that in Ghana, AstraZeneca is able to perform at this level. We have efficacy of 85%. We know that it is safe in Ghana. and we were able to vaccinate our people. So it is a form of, for me, it's a mass vaccination within the context of a trial. Because, I mean, if you give hepatitis B or measles, you don't follow people to look for efficacy. But this is a new vaccine that you are giving out, and you are also going ahead to collect information from people. And this is what I think is for me, most important. That as you do this, you collect information, and I think that Ghana can add up to the limited data we have on Africans. And I'm sure that maybe after 6 months or 8 months, we can be confident enough to say that indeed Ghana has gone far, and our data will go into the pool of data that will support some of these vaccines which are coming out. If you look at the Russian vaccines, for instance, I'm not aware that any African country has explored this. But I'm happy that in Ghana, we are starting and we are able to obtain data that will support what we have seen in their data, or perhaps give us some better information that we can use to modify this. And to also add that the reason why this is important is that as we administer these vaccines, a lot is going to happen. Now we are going to talk about 2 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines. And my colleague Bediako was saying that the virus is mutating fast. It is possible that through sequencing, you may have some other strains of viruses emerge. And this information will be given to AstraZeneca and the other companies to remodify their vaccines and perhaps come out with a 3rd dose. You may never know. So this is very important for me, that as we administer, we do research, we collect information, collect data, we collect archive blood samples, we sequence these samples, and then use this information to feed back to our vaccine developers so they can modify and help the country. Like we do for influenza. Every year, new vaccines for influenza keep coming up, and you keep adjusting them based on the drift and the shift in the antigen for influenza. And I believe this is what's going to happen for coronavirus. It's never going now. So when new strains emerge, you have to update your vaccines and then revaccinate the population so that you're able to manage what you have. So yes, we may not have much data in Africa, but we are data. I mean, the fact that I'm going to take it means that I'm a part of the trial. And what you obtain from me is going to feed into the world data and inform us and give us substantial evidence why we must continue to do this and perhaps move on with our life. And I think that it is good that we all go for it.
So, Dr. Bediako, when you are vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine and the Sputnik V vaccines, how long does it take to get you immune, and what's the durability of your immunity?
All right. So evidence we have suggests that immunity develops within about 21 days. So there's a window after vaccination where, it takes a while for your immune system to ramp up. So the data I have seen suggests that immunity typically sets in after 21 days. But remember that these are 2-dose regimens. So you'd only get, quote unquote, the full immunity after your 2nd dose. But even after your 1st dose, you are somewhat protected, but your level of protection, or the level of immunity, is at its maximum after the 2nd dose. Dr. Moesi mentioned that we don't really yet know how long this immunity lasts, because these are new vaccines. We haven't had that much, people who were vaccinated at the beginning have still not had probably over a year for us to now evaluate how long their immunity lasts. There are suggestions that it could be 6-8 months. Some people suggest it might be 12 to 18. All the evidence suggests that it is not lifelong. It is not like measles or some of these vaccines where you can have lifelong protection. So it's going to
So
be
it means that if it is 18 months, after 18 months, you need another dose of the vaccine, right?
Yes. If immunity lasts for a finite amount of time, whether it's 12 months or 18 months, at that point, you would no longer be protected. But this is why we are saying we have to vaccinate quickly. If we vaccinate quickly enough, if we hit herd immunity before the window period closes, then we will drive down transmission to a point, like Dr. Amoesi said, where we break the back of the pandemic and there's no more virus to go around infecting. So now, for instance, we think about how we eradicated smallpox. Smallpox is no longer a problem. None of us are immune to smallpox anymore. If smallpox broke out right now, it'd be devastating. But the reason we don't worry about it is because there's no smallpox around to infect anybody. So that's what we need to do to this virus. If we can vaccinate enough people to drive down transmission to the point that you break the transmission cycle, then even when the first people who were vaccinated have lost their immunity, there's nothing to worry about because there's no virus around to infect them. Okay. So that is what we are aiming for, to vaccinate as quickly and as broadly as possible. I mean, that is why Israel has already done, close to 50% of their population. That's why, countries are vaccinating sometimes thousands and thousands of people a day. It is because you do this quickly, you do it hard, and you break the back of the pandemic.
Okay.
If we trickle it out, we are throwing money away, because in 18 months, we have to vaccinate everybody all over again because we haven't achieved anything.
Okay.
So we cannot stress it more that this has to be hard and fast and very, very efficient. And I know that's what, Dr. Achiano and his team are aiming to do.
Explain this to me. When you take the first dose, what's the time frame within which you must get the second dose?
So this varies. This is quite important because it varies from vaccine to vaccine. I think for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, what I've seen is they're talking about between 21 to 28 days. For AstraZeneca, it's a longer period, about 4 weeks all the way up to 12 weeks. And actually, there's evidence suggesting that 6 weeks and up, so slightly longer time, actually induces better protection. Because the way this works is you give the first dose, you let it, quote unquote, mature, and then you boost the response with the second dose. And so depending on the vaccine's design, there will be different prescribed times. I'm not quite sure what Sputnik 5 is. My colleagues may have information about the duration, but I know for AstraZeneca, it's 4 to 12 weeks, which in a way is a good thing because we can vaccinate a large number of people. And hopefully by the time we get to the second dose, more vaccine has come to allow us to give people their second dose. The shorter time frame means you have to reserve enough vaccine so that you can give people within the time. But that, like I said, it all varies from the different vaccines and how they were designed. But it's very important for the 2-dose vaccines that people actually get the second dose to achieve the maximal level of efficacy that the vaccine is capable of delivering.
Which percentage of our population do we need to vaccinate to be sure that we have herd immunity?
Well, that also is a range. This is an evolving process. We keep learning. I've seen everything from 60 to 75%. I am of the opinion that it's closer to 70. And it also depends on the variant. So the more transmissible the virus is, the higher your herd immunity threshold is. If a virus is not very transmissible, you can get away with a lower number. So the herd immunity threshold is probably going to vary depending on what the variants we have circulating and how transmissible they are. B117, which is what we have in Ghana, is highly transmissible. So it is likely that we need to edge above 60%. The current push currently in Ghana to do 20 million people represents about 60% of our population. But currently the guidelines suggest that you don't vaccinate children below the age of 16 and you don't vaccinate pregnant women. So actually, Ghana's 20 million, if we are only focusing on the people currently covered by the guidelines, that's about 57% of our population. So the 60% will cover everybody in Ghana who is currently in the guidelines to be vaccinated. But there are currently trials in the UK to vaccinate children. Once that data becomes available and it's demonstrated that the vaccine is safe in children, then we will probably have to adjust our 20 million higher because now we can vaccinate children. So now we need to vaccinate more people in Ghana. So even the 20 million is a fluid number. The moment children are included in the guidelines, I believe that number is going to shift up and we're going to have to find a way to get another, batch of vaccines in to enhance our ability to vaccinate even more people in our population.
Great. Dr. Achiano, I heard you say that South Africa, for instance, is targeting about 67% of its population. In the UK, the government keeps increasing the other vaccines, which experts say can even vaccinate the entire population if they want. Now, what percentage? Dr. Bediako has just mentioned that even 57% can be enough for the target that we have. What's your target? What percentage are we targeting to vaccinate as a country?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. So the overall vision is to target everybody, depending on the data on safety that will be available. But for now, we are starting with 20 million persons above from 16 years and above. Okay. And for this will give us around 64% of the population.
Okay.
But suffice to say that if you remember the last few speeches by His Excellency the President, everybody must be covered. Everybody who needs a vaccine should be covered. So that's the ultimate aim, and we're working towards that. as much as possible.
Okay. Dr. Amoisi, there's been suggestions that considering the young population that we have, we may not be able to reach the target, or if you like, we are likely not to achieve the herd immunity we require, correct?
No, I think that's a really important consideration, and we need to look at it in various ways. One is the variance or the variability in the at-risk population, not in terms of risk of transmission, right, and also risk of illness or severe disease. So you may have a smaller population, but if that population is at higher risk of transmitting the disease or at higher risk of coming down severe disease, then it is not a simple percentage issue. You need to factor in what the risk level is for transmission and then also for severe disease. What we know is that the persons under 16 are less at risk of getting infected and also less at risk of severe disease, let alone hospitalization and death. Now, that being said, suggests that, as Dr. Bediako was saying, we could get away with the numbers we have right now, and that could be enough to get us there. But we don't know. There's also another important constituent, which is your pregnant woman. Ghana presently, as far as I can remember, has a fertility rate of just under 4. I think it's 3.8, 3.9, thereabouts, which suggests that there will be a significant number of pregnant women at any given time. It's a real challenge to give out any kinds of drugs, vaccines, or anything of the sort to pregnant women who require very special interventions. But what does that really mean? Perhaps for now, it's not such a problem. But you also think deeper into that and look at the current distribution of the burden within the country. Disproportionate for Accra, Kumasi, and the major cities in the rest of the country, but definitely Accra and Kumasi carrying, over 80%, if not more. I have to look at the numbers again of the burden of the disease. And the population distribution within those cities is very different from the population distribution in the rest of the country. So that suggests that the percentage coverage, although you would have a figure for the entire country, will be very different within these different locations.
Okay.
And I'm sure the Ghana Health Service has their eyes on this ball. So in as much as we talk at a very high level, macro level, it's important to recognize that in rolling it out, it'll be very different. And what you want to avoid is a situation where the citizenry does not understand the science and thinks that, it's the urban people, the Kumasi people, and the Accra people who are being given all the attention and minding the rest of the country and so on and so forth. So it's a much more complicated response. I'm sorry I can't give you a very direct answer because if I do, I'll not be being very helpful. But I just wanted to throw light on the inherent complexity, which is then factored into the distribution plan for the vaccines, especially our population distribution.
Dr. Chano, you said that you're going to be using the existing vaccination protocols and equipment. Now, the last time we had a pandemic, we had 10 regions in this country. Now we have 16 regions. You have admitted that you could have challenges, or we have a deficit in the cold room storage, the facilities. How do you intend to deal with this, especially when the vaccines have to travel all the way to the remotest area in this country?
Okay, thank you very much, Aisha. Before I get to the specific answers, let me also talk about we are guided by the data, and as epidemiologists, we also look at the profile. If you look at the infections, to date we have approximately 80,000 and a little over, out of which 3,000, a little over 3,000 are children under 16 years. So if you're looking at the proportions, you have a little less than 4% of all infections being children under 16. And if you work out the maths, looking at the population basis of these groups, that is the under 16 and those who are above 16, you are talking about a ratio of 16 to 1. So for every one infection in children under 16, you have 16 for those above 16. And therefore, the data is clear. I mean, if you have limited resources, you want to sink it to where you reap the most benefit. And of course, tying it to the fact that the vaccines are also having been tried in children, I don't think that we should worry ourselves too much about the fact that we are not going to get approximately 70% of the population, because the real people who are actually bearing the brunt are those who are 16 years and above. And I think that the data speaks well, and I believe that we are doing the right thing.
So just a minute before you go there, for the people that we are going to be vaccinating from 16 years and above, I want you to address this for me. So pregnant women, will they be vaccinated?
No, for now, pregnant women are exempt.
Okay, which other people are exempt?
Ultimately, they will, and then children under 16. But for AstraZeneca, the very first consignment we have received, which is AstraZeneca, we are going to exclude children under 18. But as we have already indicated, we are looking at multiple vaccines. We are not just going to use we are not boxed into using AstraZeneca. Therefore, children 16 years and above will also be, between 16 and 18 will also be considered.
That is with the Sputnik V?
Yes. No, the Sputnik V is still children under 18 is also exempt for the Sputnik V.
Okay. So let's go to the point about the trying to keep the vaccines throughout the 16 regions. You say we have a deficit, and how do you intend to deal with that deficit?
Okay, so there are two major issues. If we did what we call the gap analysis in our cold chain, because if you are receiving new vaccines that are not originally in your system, obviously you need to look at your gaps.
Okay.
We have enough cold chain for the +2 to +8. And at the national level, we have 4 cold rooms, 3 of them measuring about 80 meter cubed, and the other one measuring about 40 meter cubed.
Okay.
So for vaccines that are coming in trickles, it doesn't put any pressure on us at all. For the regions, we are not even worried because we have excess cold space in all the 10 regions. And remember, the new regions were created out of older regions, and so they cut their vaccines from their mother regions. And they, as I said, they have excess, so we are not worried. It is only a couple of districts. I think when we did a gap analysis out of the 260, only 15 districts have to be beefed up in terms of cold chain. But even for now, the rate at which the vaccines are coming, there is not an issue for us. We are sad that we are not getting so many vaccines at the same time, but in a way, we are also not overstretched in terms of cold chain.
Now, it's been settled that for every vaccine, there can be side effects. But do we know the severity or otherwise of the side effects associated with the vaccines we are about to administer? And at what point after vaccination will you begin to see side effects? Dr. Michael Owusu.
Yeah, hello, Aisha. So what we know from the data from AstraZeneca is that, when you are vaccinated, about 54% of people tend to have pain at the site of vaccination. About 52.6% of people will have headache. And then 53% will have fatigue. And 7.9% of people will have fever above 38 degrees Celsius. 31.9% may have chills. But this is short, for about 2 to 3 days, very short duration, and then it goes away.
Okay.
And it's similar to the vaccine that we have taken. If you take hepatitis B vaccine, you are likely to have pains at the site. Some people may have short duration of fever, and then it goes on. So the data out there does not seem to suggest that we have some serious adverse event or things like death or some chronic illness that may come up. Which is why I said that when you go through this process in your own country, you also need to document. And I'm quite happy that the FDA is going to undertake that enhanced pharmacovigilance process so that they document what we see. Remember that the Sputnik V was done in Russia among Russian population.
Yeah.
AstraZeneca in Brazil, South Africa, and UK. And we differ in terms of population genetics. So once we are giving to our people, and then we have that kind of documents to back what we are doing, I think that we'll be able to collect much information to be able to understand what is doing in our country. But the data out there suggests that even if you have side effect, it's just very short. About 2 to 3 days, you get back to normal. And I think that these vector-based vaccines and messenger-based vaccines are one of the most safest vaccines you can find. And we have taken much wilder vaccines, like the polio vaccines, which are, like viruses. These are polio vaccines and yellow fever vaccines. Some of them are weak or attenuated viruses. So we have taken live killed viruses and attenuated forms before as human beings. And even for those ones, we were able to go through. But if you have vaccines that are manufactured from a section of, of a virus that is done in the lab, engineered, it's much safer. So safety for me is not a problem that we have to worry about. So I'm hopeful that I don't expect to hear that people will take this vaccine and have some serious complications, because most of the information out there seems to show that it's safe. Because of the technology that is used, it makes it much better for the human body to endure and not to have some serious adverse events or side effects.
When I return from this break, we'll be talking about the protocols that we have, the existing vaccination protocols that the Ghana Health Service will be relying on to administer the vaccination. Is it comprehensive enough? Also, there's still a section of the public who do not believe that the vaccines will not harm them. How is the Ghana Health Service going to deal with it and ensure that they bring all of them on board? Stay with me. I'm coming right back. Welcome back to PM Express. We're talking about the arrival of the 600,000 vaccines in Ghana tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. And we're told that the vaccines will be received by the Minister Designate for Health and some government officials, and then we'll go ahead with the vaccination. Now, let me bring you in, Dr. Amwesi, on this one. The Ghana Health Service has indicated that it's going to use the existing protocols and equipment to administer the vaccines. There are those who say these equipments have been there for some time now. They may need some improvement. Do you think they are comprehensive enough to, execute the kind of job ahead of us?
Maybe we may need some clarification on what kind of instruments that we're talking about here, because for this vaccination activity, what the main thing is the manpower, and the second thing is the vehicles that you would use to transport these vaccines. It must be at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, as you rightly introduced. This is infrastructure that exists already for other vaccination programs. There's a whole slew of motorcycles and cold boxes that we have. These are also used to even transport samples to our center for different kinds of work. So from where I sit, and it's unfortunate Dr. Tiano is not on presently, given the nature of this vaccine, the AstraZeneca, and even when the Sputnik comes in, it is no different from what we have already, and the infrastructure we have should be adequate. However, as a public health person, when I layer on top of that the fact that this is no ordinary vaccine but a COVID-19 vaccine, it suggests that you may not be able to do vaccination as usual. You may need to adopt a slightly different approach, including factoring in how people would want to receive this, factoring in where you're going to be doing the vaccination and all that. We've heard some unfortunate stories of people who have resisted vaccination for polio in other parts of West Africa, going as far as even killing healthcare workers. We don't want to see this kind of thing in Ghana. I don't anticipate it. But what that means is that we have to be proactive in our approach, and the fact that we do have the manpower and we do have the vehicles and all that we require doesn't mean we should take things just sitting. I would like to see And I hope there is a close collaboration with the security forces, just like we see them collaborate with bodies like the Electoral Commission and others in conducting elections. In the same way, I would expect the security forces to be closely aligned with the Ghana Health Service, Ministry of Health, in engaging in this vaccination exercise. Certainly what you want to avoid is the vaccination exercise itself serving as a super spreader event. You don't want this to happen. It could happen. You don't want people standing, bunched together in long queues for extended periods of time. So it has to be very carefully planned out. But with regard to the instruments themselves, I think we have enough to go around. I pointed to one concern, which I just want to stress on in conclusion, which is being aware of the level of vaccine hesitancy we may have in the country. I know that there's a lot of research work going on currently trying to measure the level of acceptance, acceptability of the vaccine in the country. I can tell you that some very preliminary work that has been done by my colleague, Dr. Theophilus Achampong, is suggesting that it's just about 50% of Ghanaians are very likely to take the vaccine, with perhaps about 1/4 being undecided. I think it's a good sign, but it tells you that there's still a lot of work to be done. My anticipation is that the moment people start taking this, a couple of prominent people, not only in the executive, but also from the arts and just popular personalities, some of these social media influencers and other influential persons from across the board start taking this, it should quickly shift. And we should put in place a system where we have our ears on the ground to understand and to know what people are saying, what people are thinking, and react very quickly. One beautiful thing that I saw Ghana do was during the Ebola crisis at the time when Dr. Nsiasari was the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, and there was a huge misinformation campaign that went round, and very quickly he reacted as DG, put out a message, was pushed across all social media. It killed that fake story immediately, and this was a Ghanaian resident in the US just pushing some false information. So we have to have our ears on the ground to react really, really quickly to any misinformation. And then Michael talked about these possible adverse events or reactions. It's really important that we tell people, again, that it's just like taking an injection, even an ordinary injection. If as a physician, you could talk about water for injection, even water for injection can end up with a reaction, because here you are putting a needle into the muscle, and this is the deltoid muscle. It's a very thick muscle. It's very muscular, and it's well innervated and also vascularized. So you will feel pain, you will feel some discomfort, even if you're just injecting water. And you're injecting something else into your body, there will be some possible discomfort. This is normal. It has nothing to do with the fact that it is a vaccine. And these are important messages we need to press home.
Now, there's still a section of the public who say they will not take the vaccine. Dr. Chiano, what's your strategy to get everyone on board? Hello, Dr. Chiano, kindly unmute for me.
Yes, thank you very much. Very sorry about that. I was just saying that communication and social mobilization are key when it comes to such mass exercises. And because of that, we fashioned out a strategy. We've developed a communication strategy with the support of partners, including the development partners and, of course, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Information, the Ghana Health Service. That includes a crisis communication strategy. We've done some stakeholder mapping, looking at about 30 broad categories, including the professionals, health professionals, and allied health professionals. We've also done media mapping, and these are all going to be engaged. In fact, the engagement has started in a way, led by the ministry. So already the Medical Association, the Allied Health Association, Pharmaceutical Society, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Ghana Psychological Association have already been engaged. And then some media personalities, especially commentators, have also been engaged. We've also prepared some kind of jingles, which from tomorrow will be aired. We've done that in English and Twi. This is part of the process of trying to create demand and, of course, as it were, also get the community buy-in. There are social announcements that have also been developed. But above all, as the previous speaker said, when people see prominent people taking the vaccine, it engenders confidence. So during the brief ceremony, the launch ceremony, His Excellency the President would receive a vaccine, I believe. The leadership of Parliament, the Christian Council, the Muslim leaders, reps from the associations are mentioned, some other prominent people, including reps from the essential service, and of course the security agencies. And all these are geared towards engendering public confidence in the vaccination exercise. Apart from that, our unit of operation is usually the district. So the districts know what to do best. They normally will write letters to the district assembly and then involve every department and agency within the district. Then we also have community mobilizers and community surveillance volunteers who act as link persons between the community and the health service. So they normally will be trained a day or so before the campaign. Sometimes they move into communities, and as I said, depending on the district, the strategies will be fashioned out as such. Then also, for the campaigns that we've done, we realized that in the remotest parts, the community information centers play a key role in that. So we'll use that as much as possible. Community information centers are simply PA systems that are mounted normally on very long poles that broadcast information in a defined area. And this, we've realized, also works quite well. So we'll use multiple strategies. We are also training resource persons who would go into the radio station starting from tomorrow, Tuesday, Friday. We'll go and have discussions, and especially at the local level, the FM stations are going to be used as well. And so there are multiple strategies that we're going to use.
But Dr. Michael, also, great. Briefly, as we begin administering the vaccinations, what are your expectations of the Ghana Health Service and government as well?
Well, aside the community engagement, which we have discussed, I'm a researcher and also more interested in virology. So the first is for government to pay particular attention to research. For me, this is very important. This is an important exercise that will help us collect data that we don't have much on the African continent. So I will spend huge investment in this to enable centers like KCCR and other places have enough capacity to sequence strains of viruses that may emerge even after this vaccine is given, not because of the vaccine, but because of selective pressure that my colleague also mentioned. And I also expect that even for populations that we don't have much information about, the pregnant women, children less than 16 years, we don't wait for data from UK or from Israel, but we can begin a phase 3 trial with some very good investigators in Ghana to understand how the vaccines will work in these populations and begin to administer. And let's say Ghana has done a phase 3 trial within this period and has enough data to be able to at least inform decisions. I also expect that even immunocompromised subjects, what I asked myself, the HIV population, I mean, the AstraZeneca did not seem to work in this population, but they are important. People living with HIV account for quite over 350,000 or so in Ghana. We need to do some preliminary phase 3 trial to understand how well these people can accommodate the vaccine. So on the aspect of research, there is a lot to be done, but it goes with money. So as we are working towards mobilizing vaccines and administering and getting it across the board, we need to pay particular attention to research, invest and fund researchers to collect as much information as possible. I mean, for the long term, I mentioned that this is not going now. I hope it's possible every year we may have some booster doses to take care of circulating strains that may emerge. But this will be based on what you find. If Ghana finds something new, AstraZeneca can manufacture vaccine to cover what Ghana finds. And this is where I think that we play important role in it. So I will urge government to look at researchers to help us, to fund us, to resource us so that we can be able to do more to help move the country forward.
And I believe Dr. Bediako agrees with you because he's also a researcher, and Dr. Amwesi also on this. I'm grateful, gentlemen, for joining the discussion. Dr. Bediako is immunologist, research fellow, West African Center for Cell Biology of Pathogens at the University of Ghana. Dr. John Amwesi is leader of Global Health Infectious Disease Research Group at KCCR. Dr. Michael Owusu is clinical microbiologist with KCCR and lecturer at KNUST, and Dr. Kwame Amponsa-Chiano, senior public health physician specialist and program manager, expanded program on immunization, Ghana Health Service. I'm grateful for your time. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our program.